Dobrodošli. Moje ime je Azra Hadžić. Ovo su priče koje izdvajamo. Intenziviran sukob Izraela i Hezbollaha proteklih dana. U izraelskim napadima na Liban stotine ubijenih, među njima žene i djeca. Deseci hiljada napustili domove. Hiljade izbjeglih iz Kurske oblasti u Rusiji nakon prošlomjesečnog upada ukrajinske vojske. Dopisnica Dorsa Jabbari donosi priču o izbjeglim Rusima. S kakvim se strahovima suočavaju tražitelji azila u Velikoj Britaniji, posebno nakon velikih nemira u toj zemlji. Nakon 2 serije eksplozija komunikacijske opreme u Libanu, sukob Hezbollaha i Izraela znatno je pojačan početkom protekle sedmice. Deseci hiljada stanovnika Libana bježali su sa juga na sjever zbog teškog izraelskog bombardiranja. Izraelske snage su ubile više stotina Libanaca, među njima i desetke djece. Hiljade su povrijeđeni, škole su zatvorene, a bolnice preopterećene. Novinarka Al Jazeere Zeina Khodr zabilježila je ovu priču iz južnog libanskog grada Tira.
Izrael je znatno intenzivirao ovaj sukob, pokrenuvši jedan od najraširenijih zračnih napada na Liban posljednjih decenija. Udari su dolazili u valovima širom južnog Libana, kao i na istoku, u područjima gdje je Hezbollah prisutan. Čini se da izraelska vojna strategija uključuje pokušaje izazivanja veće krize raseljavanja.
Okay, there's a lot of panic. People are making their way out of this area. A few minutes ago, there's been another airstrike. You can see the smoke. These airstrikes have been happening since the early hours of the morning, in fact, in recent days. And we are very, very close to the southern city of Tira.
Borbeni avioni također gađaju, kako Izrael kaže, položaje Hezbollaha na autocesti koja vodi prema glavnom gradu Bejrutu. Izraelska vojska tvrdi da je ovo tek početak. Ljudi bježe, a saobraćaj je gotovo u zastoju nakon što je Izrael naredio svima da napuste područja za koja kaže da u njima Hezbollah skladišti oružje. Zbog ovog gotovo godinu dana dugog sukoba već je raseljeno više od 100.000 ljudi iz libanskih sela duž granice, ali UN kaže da još 150.000 živi desetak kilometara sjeverno. Kao i u Gazi, čini se da je Izrael ponovno odlučio izložiti civile opasnosti.
For over 20 years, Hezbollah has deployed its arms inside homes and militarized civilian infrastructure. As a result, the Hezbollah terrorist organization has turned southern Lebanon into a battlefield.
Izraelski deklarirani ratni cilj je vratiti stanovnike Izraela u njihove domove na sjeveru zemlje, koji je Hezbollah više puta gađao u znak podrške Palestincima u Gazi.
We are not able to reach the site of the strike. There's a lot of chaos here. They are worried that there's going to be another strike.
Građani Libana ginu, među njima žene i djeca. Bolnice su odgodile operacije koje nisu hitne i liječe ranjene. Roditeljima je rečeno da odvedu djecu iz škola nakon što su deseci hiljada ljudi s lokalnih brojeva primili pozive upozorenja da se evakuišu radi vlastite sigurnosti. Izrael je optužen za korištenje psihološkog rata radi stvaranja haosa i širenja straha među stanovnicima koje je već na rubu.
بدها تضرب ولا تكفي يعني عم تزرق للسيد حسن تبلش الحرب اكيد مخطره لما يقول اسرائيل انه زيحوا عن حزب الله اكيد في خطر اسرائيل ما عندها ما بترحم حدا.
Nemilosrdni udari nisu spriječili Hezbollah da ispaljuje rakete preko granice. Ovo su već nazvali otvorenim obračunom.
Posljednjih sedmica Rusija tvrdi da je povratila nekoliko sela koja su ukrajinske snage zauzele tokom iznenadnog upada na rusku teritoriju koji je počeo 6. augusta. Vjeruje se da je na vrhuncu Ukrajina kontrolirala približno 1300 kvadratnih kilometara u Kurskoj oblasti, koja graniči sa sjeveroistočnom Ukrajinom. U prvim danima nakon napada ukrajinskih snaga, ekipa Al Jazeere bila je u toj regiji i zabilježila priču o stanovnicima koji su morali napustiti svoje domove.
This is the first time in over 80 years that foreign troops have entered Russian soil. The Ukrainian forces are trying to push further into the Kursk region on a daily basis. The lines that we're getting from Russian officials is that it is a contained situation. They're calling it a terrorist invasion. The people we spoke to that had to flee their homes said they had to do it overnight. I'm Dorsa Jabbari, correspondent. The Russians I met in Kursk are angry and scared, but between us, I was also touched by the sense of community that I saw. Ukraine launched an incursion into the Kursk region on August 6th, and it was very much a surprise to Russians across the country. So there are important strategic points within the Kursk region. It is right across Sumy region in Ukraine, which has seen some of the most intense bombardment by Russian forces in the war that is ongoing. Military strategists believe that Ukrainians decided to push through this region into Russia to try and alleviate some of the heavy attacks that they've been under by Russian forces in their own regions. In the first few days that we were there were some air raid sirens going off sporadically, and we actually did hear a few explosions in the air. We also saw bomb shelters, concrete shelters going up near bus stations across Kursk city. We went to a boxing studio that was turned into a shelter. There was about 50 people living in this boxing studio. Through translation, they were telling me that they have never met a foreigner. They were asking me where I'm from. And one of the children started touching my hair, and he was telling me that he's never seen hair like mine. And the woman was explaining that she had never met a foreigner in her life, that she had grown up in a village of about a few hundred people near the border with Ukraine, and they had never left their village. So it gives you an idea of how remote some of these settlements are. They never had to experience anything like this. I met a boy who was 9 years old. His name was Vlad. He didn't speak a word of English, and I don't speak any Russian, but he was adamant on explaining to me his video game that he was playing on a phone. Once we finished filming in this facility, I bought all the kids ice cream, and they were very, very happy. And I think we ended up speaking a language that we didn't need words, and we didn't need a translator. And it was very much an experience for them as much as it was for us to speak to them. The people that we spoke to that had come to the various points for assistance, they were extremely grateful to the volunteers who were working to give out aid to them. I really got a sense of community when I was there.
We arrived from Glushkovo. We've been staying here for a week with my son. We left behind our house and all our life. I would not like anyone to live through what we have lived through. I want peace as soon as possible and for this horror to end.
I think this attack, this incursion into Kursk has really changed the narrative from the Russian perspective, because for the first time since February 2022, when Russia launched its war against Ukraine, it's now itself being seen as the victim. It is no longer just the aggressor. It has forced the population to really look at how they can come together.
Potreseni prošlomjesečnim nemirima, tražitelji azila u Velikoj Britaniji strahuju od neprijateljstva, rasizma i nasilja u zemlji za koju se nadaju da će zvati domom. Azad, što nije njegovo pravo ime, bio je jedan od hiljada učesnika protesta u Iranu nakon smrti Mahse Amini 2022. Djevojke koja je preminula u pritvoru nakon što je uhapšena zbog navodnog kršenja pravila odijevanja. Ali kada je Iran počeo zatvarati i pogubljivati ljude koji su učestvovali u protestima, on je pobjegao. Tražio je azil u Britaniji, vjerujući da će biti siguran u zapadnoj zemlji, koja je osudila iransku vladu i uvela joj sankcije. 2 godine kasnije on živi na brodu u južnoj Engleskoj i ne kreće se često iz straha da će biti napadnut.
There's people like you what are raping people, killing people. Too many boats, shoot them on sight. That's what I say.
We cannot go back to our country. People don't want us here. What will happen to us?
Every time I'm walking or I'm with my friends, we are just nervous about this. Is there gonna be someone who wants to attack us?
We're in solidarity with refugees, migrants, Muslims, all those people who are being demonized by the far right.
This is the way right into the arch. I'm from Iran, I'm 30 years old. I came to UK because I thought I will be safe in here. And home sweet home. The place I live is a barge called BB Stockholm.
Toilet and bathroom.
They are keeping 450 asylum seekers in that barge. They are not on land. We are living on water, so anything can happen to that barge easily, and we are really scared in there.
When we heard about the protests, we start to pack our stuff, so if something happens, we can run right away. When these protests happened, I just thought, what can we do now? You don't have any house, you don't have any place that you belong. You are just in the middle with no rights, with no even ID card. It was really scary.
The only thing comes to my head is this the right place for me to live, or I just made another big mistake for my life. Merhaba Cengiz abi.
Merhaba kardeşim.
Nasılsın?
İyiyim sağ olasın. Sen nasılsın?
Sağ ol abi. Ne haber?
İyi de idare ediyorsun. Sen nasılsın? İyi.
Abi bu protestler burada oldu ya. Sana bir sıkıntı yarandı mı? Bir problemin oldu mu? Böyle bir şeyler oldu mu sana, yoksa her şey güzeldi burada?
Yalnız işte bize söylediler. İşte erken kapatın dükkanınızı. Şöyle yapın, böyle yapın. Evinize erken gidin. Ben de o gün saat 6.30-7'ye kadar dükkandaydım. Saat 4'te işte başlayacaktı. Yani bizlerin onlara bir zarar, ziyan vereceğimizi sıkıntı yaratmak için gelmedik.
Evet.
Bir de yerinde mutlu olmuş olsa memleketinde burada bir işin olmazdı. Daha iyi bir hayat, daha iyi bir gelecek için sen buraya geldin.
Evet. Evet, hepimiz öyleyiz. Yani hepimiz daha iyi bir geleceğe göre geldik. If I was there, government will arrest me. In Iran, protests started by death of Kurdish girl Mahsa Jina Amini. When they arrested her, they banged her head, so she went into a coma and she died. We started that protest because everyone wanted a big change in that government. Suddenly, something happened and government wins. So they started arresting people that they were involved in that protest. In best situation, they will put me in jail. In bad situation, they will hang me.
Alright, so look, this is how it is. We can't have you lot coming in. We've got enough of you as it is. You're putting up your corner shops. You're taking over England. Look, if you want to come in here, you can't. You've got to go back to your own country. Too many boats, shoot them on sight. That's what I say. Before you say, I'm not being racist at all, but see what's in there? So, that's not an English name. Do you know how to speak English?
Who? Oh, mate. You want to film
that? That's case closed. That's all I'm saying. Not being funny, brother, but there's many of you coming on the boat and there's coming into our country. We can't even get a GP appointment. You can't stay in hotels. You can't get cool. And there's people, not saying you, but there's people like you what are raping people, killing people. We respect our own, not yourself, and that's just me being honest. See, can't even understand me. That's what I'm saying. That's not being me, disrespectful. You can't even speak to me in English, which is an English country.
I'm really nervous about these protests. Is it going to be fine? Is it going to be better? Is it going to be good for us or bad for us?
So last week was awful. It was horrible. I'm not very easily scared, but I was very scared last week.
So we're here, of course, because across the country there's been the most distressing and appalling appearance of the far right, and we're here to say never again.
How did the riots and everything that was going on, how did that make you feel?
Really bad. We were just looking everywhere. Okay, someone is looking for me. Is there anyone who wants to harm me? Is there anyone who wants to attack me? We were just trying to be as a group, walk as a group, so we can support each other if something bad happens.
I do promise you the majority of us are good people. It's just those people that rioted, they're very loud and they like to make themselves look very scary. I promise you that we are mostly good people in this country.
Yeah. My hope in here is to get my refugee status. I'm planning to be an interpreter at first, maybe find a few friends, maybe find a girlfriend for myself here, and maybe I can start a good life in here. If I get that chance to talk to those people that hate asylum seekers, I will talk to them and I will tell them, look, I'm sorry that we are here. If we could be any place else, we would be there. But this is now what happened to us. We are here now. We are human. We are just human as any other people, and we have heart.
Palestinka čiji je zahtjev za švedsko državljanstvo odbijen nakon što je sudjelovala u univerzitetskim protestima podrške Palestincima u Gazi, bori se za ponovno otvaranje svog slučaja. To se događa dok vlada pokušava pooštriti pravilo da imigranti moraju živjeti, kako kažu, časno, izvještava Paul Ris.
Mirni sastanak u sjeni drveća nakon perioda nemira za ove studente u Getaburgu. Njihova grupa solidarnosti s Palestinom bila je u sukobu sa administracijom Univerziteta Chalmers. Organizatorica Isra Barham prijavljena je policiji tokom protesta. Zbog toga je njen zahtjev za švedsko državljanstvo odbijen.
Jag tillsammans med andra studenter på Chalmers har inte kunnat bara sitta och titta på. Jag blev inringd av Chalmers och jag blev polisanmäld och som har redan misstanke om brott, och oavsett vad det är för brott kan göra att du får samma konsekvenser.
Barham je rumunska državljanka, ali njen otac, Palestinac, tamo nema prebivalište. Osim toga, trebao bi biti deportovan iz Švedske u Gazu nakon rata. Kćerka sa švedskim pasošem mogla bi mu pomoći da ostane.
Isra Barham's rejected application for citizenship comes as Sweden tightens up its immigration laws, with higher demands placed on the requirement to have what it calls an honourable way of life.
Vi är ju som ni vet i full färd med ett paradigmskifte just i migrationspolitiken och vi tar ju nu också ytterligare steg där vi ser till att förbättra legitimiteten i systemet.
Agencija za migracije kaže da je Isrin slučaj podlijegao postojećem zakonu, a ne novim vladinim prijedlozima.
In this case, it's black or white. We're doing a check in the register, and if you are suspected of a crime, we cannot give you a Swedish citizenship. It's a little bit of a misunderstanding to take this case as an example of Sweden being harder on refugees coming here. We will protect people who need asylum.
Univerzitet Chalmers kaže da je grupa studenata protestovala izvan dopuštenih područja i postavila postere člana osoblja. Isra mora ponovno podnijeti zahtjev za državljanstvo nakon što je njena žalba odbijena.
The police found that Israel's actions couldn't even constitute as a crime. Why did she receive this negative decision when her actions weren't even criminal?
Kao nedržavljanka, Isra može ostati u Švedskoj ako nađe posao nakon što završi studij arhitekture.
Innan jag var liten, jag är en del av det svenska samhället. Jag ska riskera att bli bestraffad för att jag väljer att göra det rätt.
Uz mogući novi policijski izvještaj, Isrin status u Švedskoj još je upitniji.
Doktorirala je na Oxfordu, nagrađivana je francusko-irska režiserka, novinarka i gorljiva zagovarateljica palestinskog oslobođenja od izraelske okupacije. Za Al Jazeera Balkans govori o izraelskoj genocidnoj misiji u Gazi, etničkom čišćenju na zapadnoj obali, o apsurdnom zahtjevu SAD-a da Izrael provodi istrage o zločinima koje čini izraelska vojska protiv Palestinaca. Poredi genocid u Gazi s onim koji je počinjen u BiH te objašnjava zašto je, kako kaže, pogrešno Izrael posmatrati odvojeno od SAD-a.
There is a clear disdain for the loss of life, a hierarchy of human value, a sense that some deaths are strategically acceptable. That was the truth then, it is the truth now, that there is a cost being calculated that is deemed to be acceptable to those who have the capacity to stop it. But I also think that there is something wider, of course, in the continuities of the communities that are being targeted. Of course, not all Palestinians are Muslims. Palestinians are also Christians. And of course, I always make this point that Palestinians being people, they are atheists, they are, maybe non-denominational spiritual. They are just people. So they will have the whole gamut of beliefs like anybody else does. But we tend to assume, because of the way that they're represented, that they are, one big Muslim bloc. And I'm sure that there's probably continuities there with how the Bosnian community is represented. This idea that it was these Muslims, this reference as if everyone is extreme. And this assumption that everyone is somehow extreme by kind of the proximity to Islam. And I find that obviously as a Muslim really perturbing, because those patterns are very evident today. They're evident in Gaza, they are evident in the way that we talk about what's happening. And they're evident, unfortunately, in the way that we talk about Muslim communities throughout Europe. Israel's investigations of itself yield less than a 1% prosecution rate. However, the prosecution of Palestinians in military courts is over 99%. Those statistics in and of themselves suggest that we're not looking at a justice system by any name that could be recognizable, objectively speaking. I think it's a mistake to think of Israel separately to the United States. Israel was often thought of by Arab and Palestinian intellectuals as a US military base in the region. There are strategic reasons why you might want to separate the two, and one would be, for example, that you could stand in America and claim to represent the bastion of human rights and democracy and freedom of speech and all the rest of it, and so you could continue to purport to stand for those values whilst arming financially and militarily a genocide in Gaza. And the way that you do that, of course, is to create a distinction between the two entities, which means that when we then bring any case against Israel to international courts, then America is able to veto any sanctions, any accountability, and so continue to essentially money launder US money through Israel back into the military-industrial complex in the US through this sort of charade that, we're trying to account Israel, but we just can't do it. Well, you absolutely could do it. You could just not veto every attempt to hold them accountable. But you would only do that, of course, if there was a disalignment between the two countries. And I think that in itself is part of the fast that we are asked to swallow.
Bio je ovo još jedan Al Jazeera Svijet. Hvala vam za pažnju. Ostanite uz program Al Jazeera Balkans.